Dude, he's just trying to count us down. Jesus.
Just do it. Just do it, mate. Just do it.
All right, guys. Well, we're back, and this is Unfiltered. For those of you just tuning in, I'm ChanManV, joined here by Richard Lewis and Thorin. Going to be discussing star players and the, I guess, influence that star players possibly have on roster decisions, coaches, that sort of thing. And I wanted to see if there's any parallel just to what's happening or what we see happening in the NBA with the whole LeBron James thing. And even though they're spinning it that LeBron had nothing to do with like the firing of the coach and things like that, we see this a lot in other sports where teams and general management try to cater to their superstar just because they want to make them happy. They want them to keep them there, especially somebody like LeBron James. I mean, Dan Gilbert wants him to stay in Cleveland. I mean, that's for sure, or even got him to entice him to come to Cleveland in the first place. So he probably made some promises. So is this type of thing, is it happening, or has it ever happened in esports, in the history of esports? And is it happening today? And if not, what's the closest thing that we see today?
This is Duncan's domain.
Yeah, this is
NBA questions. Come on, motherfucker.
I mean, it's obviously happened loads in real sports, but the main reason it happens in real sports is because huge free agency exists. Mm-hmm. And so the notion is, in real sports, whoever's typing that's super loud. Yep. So in real, I mean, you'd think I'd have to mention that, wouldn't you? But if that happened in real sports, if you have a superstar player, then under all circumstances, your number one goal beyond even winning or having the right team is you must keep that superstar player. Because in real sports, the superstar player puts all the bums in seats, gets all the people to buy the merchandise, usually will also contribute towards you being a good team. So as a result, since every 2 or 3, like 3 or 4 years, depending on the sport, that guy can go somewhere else, you're going to make him happy first and foremost. And if that means firing a coach and getting another decent coach, you're going to do that. Now in esports, obviously free agency does not exist to the same degree in team sports. So it's not as prevalent that people cater to the star player, but I think it's happened a few times. The problem is, obviously, we don't really have coaches, so the analogy doesn't work directly. But I guess in terms of like kicking out another player from the team, I think certainly star players have a lot of say in this. Sadly, I think sometimes not enough, as in there's been star players where I've even said to them, like, mate, you could have that guy kicked out the team, like if it was between you and him, they're definitely going to choose you. But a lot of people were like, nah, I couldn't do that, And so actually, if anything, a lot of star players I know don't flex that muscle. They really do buy into the bullshit of like, well, here's my teammate and, that's for someone else to make the decision. The reason why in real sports, I think stars do that is because rightfully so, they are ruthless enough to know I only have a 10-year career as like a peak level player. So I can't fuck around with this guy who's like leading the team the wrong way and messing up all the rotations and everything and lose like my 3-year span at winning the championship. I've got to get the right guy in now. In esports, a lot of more people are naive and they don't have the same like view of their career trajectory. So I don't think it happens as much, but it certainly does. I mean, an obvious example to me would be in TSM, where the players essentially kicked out their coach. They just like made it so that they didn't respect him at all. And eventually the owner just came along and said, you're not even the proper coach anymore. I'm the coach. So, I mean, that's an obvious example to me.
Yeah. And of course, who would have thought TSM would have done something like that? Because usually they
it's crazy, isn't it?
I know. They're usually such a one big family, I believe.
So generally, I mean, you kind of mentioned that they don't do it enough. I mean, what's your general thought on that? I mean, do you agree with players they should do that more often? I mean, like they should do that more than not, or should it be just more of a general manager? Because from the standpoint of sports, it's usually a combination between general manager and coach building a team. Whatever sport you want to talk about, right?
Well, here's the problem. In an ideal world, I agree, no one should do it. In an ideal world, in a real sport, the general manager should decide all of the players in his team and should even like put the players together and pick the manager depending on what he thinks the team should look at. That would be perfect. Problem is, these problems arise because we're not in the perfect world. So like I'm saying, the reason the star player can do it is because he has the most leverage. And so in that scenario, yeah, I'm sure sometimes there's been cases where they did it that were ridiculous, where they had like a coach fired who was a good coach. Mm-hmm. But I know cases where, I mean, one of the big problems with sports, you have to realize when you talk about the manager example, is it's famous in real sports that you can have a fantastic manager, but he's with the wrong style of team, like some super offensive minded guy and he's with like a really sick defensive minded team. If he's using them the wrong way, he probably should be fired, even if he's a good coach. He should just go somewhere else. So the problem is, I actually do think that if a star player has looked at his situation and said, I can't win right now, and here's one of the reasons, this player on my team is holding us back, and not only that, let's say a compelling reason, I know I can get this player into that spot. So I can get an upgrade, or I can get a player who maybe not even skill-wise an upgrade, but I think he'd fit the team better. I think it's entirely within the rights of the star player to do that. I mean, it's his career at the end of the day.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I necessarily agree with Duncan on this entirely, but what I will say is, unlike real sports, there does seem to be a lot of fucking weird, fucked up sentimentality in esports, where it's like someone could be clearly not good enough.
Oh, I know.
Yeah, just clearly not good enough, and everyone can see it. The fans can see it. Pundits can see it. People in the organization can see it. His fucking teammates can see it. But there'll be one guy who makes the decision, arbitrarily, of course, because there's some title appointed to him, and he'll be like, yeah, well, he's a good lad. He's been so loyal to the organization. Well, fucking loyalty's great and all that, but if you can't perform, if you're not up to standard, give him a job doing something else. Here, you carry the fucking water. We'll pay you the same salary. But, like, this is a sport, right? So you got to do what's optimal to win. You have an obligation to do that. So we do see it way too much, where... I can think of example, Titan. There's been in CS:GO, large debate about whether or not it should have been existence moving a coach. That's always been my standpoint. I think Kevin was never going to be good enough to compete at an elite level anymore in CS:GO, but he clearly had a good tactical mind. And meanwhile, they've got a coach called Niak, who's like just a guy who's known them all his life. He can't give them any tactical insight in a game. Hey, have you got a water? Are you all right? Yeah, okay. So you're sacrificing two positions just to be like, hey, we're a family. That's great to begin with. That'll get you through some hard times. But when it's nothing but hard times, make a fucking change. It's fucking retarded otherwise. We've seen it time and time again. So I think star players can do leverage, but actually, sometimes it even backfires. Like, look at Hiko with Cloud9 in CS. He went and said, right, if you want me and somebody else, then, I think it was Nothing was the particular person he was having an issue with. He's got to go. And the organization turned around and said, we're not going to be held to ransom. And actually, the manager even went so far as to say, I will give you the money to fund a second team under the Cloud9 umbrella. We'll have two CSGO teams, one run by Hiko and the one that Hiko left. And Hiko went, fuck that. I want to win games. Fuck you. I'm not interested. I'm going to go and join a good team, and it's going to body Cloud9. And it didn't happen to begin with, and he spent some time in the wilderness. He ended up in that bullshit Neelam team that was never going to do anything. But now look where he is, the number one team in North America. Mm-hmm. Meanwhile, Cloud9 have had to bring in a fucking unknown quantity called Stewie 2K, just like in the hope that they're going to get some wild card. And right now, I don't think they're even close to Team Liquid. So it's worked out well for Hiko, but he didn't get what he wants. So Hiko was right, star players can see some shit. Doesn't mean they're always right. Doesn't mean you should always listen to them, but they definitely should have some fucking input in their own destiny. It's as simple as that.
In general, I think the most whack thing in esports, so this will even relate back to the whole discussion about WCS, is the notion that what started as fucking competitive computer game tournaments are about anything but competitive computer games. They're about, I like the personality of this player. Who gives a fuck? Is he good enough to play the game? No, get him out the door. I don't care. Bring in, but this guy who's better than him is an asshole. Again, I'm not going on holiday for 2 weeks with him to the Riviera. I'm watching him play a fucking computer game. I'd like him to be pretty good at that game. Don't care if he later goes on and fingers a fucking dog up his ass. That's pretty irrelevant. Is his micro sick? Get him in there.
I mean, it's the sponsors I want to see it, right? I mean, it's the sponsors I want on the views and stuff.
I mean, I could have gone a different way with that, Rich. But
No. Obviously,
you toned it down.
Let's just dial it down. We're only fingering dogs' arseholes tonight, so
exactly.
That's all right. That's unreal, mate.
Okay.
Anyway, but
and obviously, if Blizzard's watching, I don't mean Koreans, because I know you treat them like dogs. I'm talking to actual dogs,
All right.
Edgy.
Here we go.
Right, but looking for as pro, for example, right? Like, if you think these guys are like, special occasions, weddings and shit, they might all rock up because they've spent a lot of time with each other. But the idea that they're all best mates is just fucking retarded. There's just no evidence to substantiate that whatsoever. And yet they manage to have a working relationship and they go on and have a pretty successful team. Having this like little league fucking Mighty Ducks mentalities, great and all that if you're making a Disney movie. If you're making a successful team, doesn't fucking matter, actually. Doesn't matter if you're fucking all busy mates. If you've got the level of fucking wherewithal and mental fortitude to not have that, and you can treat it professionally and turn up and play and perform together, who gives a fuck? Who gives a fuck if you're all holding hands and making fucking daisy chains? Not that kind, Duncan. I mean the kind with actual daisies that you pick from the grass, right? And hanging out and having a picnic, right?
Not one of those StarCraft 2 caster meetings with Blizzard.
No, definitely not that, mate.
Daisy chains,
yes, I get
daisy chains in their hair,
right.
so
God,
that's what they do. They're all peacenicks, right?
All right.
I mean, apparently they all love communism, WCS, right? So let's all be equal. Let's all spread out the wealth.
Okay. All right.
Did you know that 90% of the Koreans hold 5% of Koreans hold 90% of the StarCraft 2 wealth in the world? Cancel the debt.
Okay. All right.
Out
So
the Westerners.
next topic.
We should occupy Blizzard, mate. Occupy WCS.
Duncan.
Start the hashtag.
Duncan.
I'm in for that.
WCS.
I'm in for that.
I'll make my hair in the dreads right now, Shaman.
Oh my God. Would you? Okay. Next up. So Richard, you have an article that you released earlier this week, which was, I think, a key to esports becoming just the personality, not professionalism, right? And you were talking about how you were referenced the whole Shaq thing with Duncan here, and just how being yourself, is the key to success versus being, what people think of as being professional.
Well, I actually don't necessarily think that that's a fair summation of the argument, because the implication would therefore be that the Duncan you see on camera is the Duncan you see off camera. Not entirely true.
Right.
There's definitely an air of showmanship there that I'm sure even he would admit. And it's the same for me. Like, I'm not saying it's a persona per se, but I'm a very different person backstage than I am when I go on camera, and purposefully so, because it's what's good for entertainment. But anyway, continue.
Yeah. Okay. So I mean, you're not a persona, so you're just a different version of yourself, I guess is what you're saying. But yeah, I mean, that's I guess let's talk about that, because one of the things about esports is that everybody's been for a long time has said that esports just doesn't have enough professionalism, right? That's what a lot of people have said, and we need more professionalism, and that's what we're starting to see, right? That's what we see in a lot of these LCS productions and a lot of different esports, where you have the guys dressed in suits or on these desks with ties and that sort of bit. What's your take on that? I mean, you guys have done it too. I mean, you guys wear your ties and stuff at certain events.
Yeah, I mean, because ultimately you've seen what happens if you try and represent yourself. Look what happened with Duncan. He gets told by DreamHack, wear whatever you want. Duncan goes, I might rock a Lakers jersey. They go, yeah, fucking do it, whatever, right? Wears the Lakers jersey, and you got all those fucking retards going, someone tell Thorin the camera is on. He is dressed like a retard. And you're like, yeah, all right, D-man, mate. Do you know what I mean? Let's not revise history about how you used to do Call of Duty events to like 400 people smashing out your fucking minds. What, and you think you're hot shit these days? Let's not do that, shall we? Yeah? Because I remember when you used to do casting in a fucking t-shirt. Fuck, you did it for League of Legends in season 1. So, back when it was like, oh, it's gaming, yeah? Can we just be ourselves? Nah. There's a fucking group. This is like old boys fucking mafia that was so desperate to get money, they basically presented esports as something it wasn't for fucking years, and now we're all beholden to it. So, yeah, we do it. But actually, you'll notice, no tie, right? I make a big deal when I put on a tie. I might do it for a special occasion, like if I go to a fucking wedding or a funeral, might wear a tie. Mark of respect and all that, you know what I mean? If I wanted to wear a fucking tie every day for my job, I'd go back to the boring 9 to 5 office job that I used to have, and it was shit and soul destroying, and I don't have to do it now, so I'm not going to do it. But yeah, unfortunately, there is this like industry standard where we're being pushed to represent gaming culture as like, here's gaming culture, here's esports culture, and here's all the people that talk about it. Like, hey, we're just passing through. We're better than everyone. We're smarter than everyone. We could have real jobs, totally. I got a law degree. Yeah, but like, here's me wearing a tie talking about your game, and I'm nothing like you. I'm nothing like you. I don't give a fuck. I'm proud to be a fucking gamer. Like, I don't give a fuck. Like, why would anyone want to misrepresent themselves to make money off the thing they're misrepresenting? You've got to be some next level shill to do that. But unfortunately, this is the business we work in. So,
I mean, okay, Duncan, what's your thoughts on this?
About wearing suits and stuff?
Yeah, or just I guess the difference between, having this professional, what people think of as professionalism, in wearing suits, I guess sometimes it's like that, or just, having the audience or just perceiving it as being more of a legit thing because it has this professional feel.
I think that the whole thing is total bullshit. Like, I think basically what happens is you've noticed this trend in humans, right? It's like the WCS topic again. If someone doesn't know the answer to something, so they don't know how to do something. So in this case, we don't know how to make esports as big as a real sport, right? Okay. What people will do is they'll say, oh, well, is there an example of what I want to happen? So the example is I want it to be like a real sport, like the NFL. So they'll go, right, well, in the NFL, they wear suits. So if we wear suits, maybe then we'll be more respected. And that. What you have to ask is, why do they wear suits in the NFL? One of the reasons why they sell suits in the NFL, wear suits rather, is because the main demographic also includes like fucking baby boomers and people who are like, I live in a artificial reality of what America is, and everyone has to have a suit on. And gee golly, I hope there's not too many urban types on the broadcast today. Like ridiculous words like that. That's not who we're trying to appeal to in gaming. So I don't know why they think that is like an important aspect. To me, the only reason you could tell someone to wear a suit is because if you have a very nice suit that is tailored well, it will look nice. It will just aesthetically be pleasing. But if the person has other clothing that looks good as well, that isn't a suit, I don't really see what the big deal is. Like if someone wants to come with like Steve Jobs type wear on, where it's like a turtleneck or like some sort of a shirt, but it's like well fitted to them.
Don't encourage Henry, mate.
I don't think there's any problem with that, mate.
Don't encourage Henry because he's outrageous on a desk, mate. He's got to fucking sort himself out. Double denim. I don't give a fuck, mate. I'll wait till the end of time. Double denim's never coming back. You Morrissey listen motherfucker. That's bullshit. Like anyway.
Oh my god.
But I think that whole thing's super overrated. Yeah.
Okay, what do you think about just how the production looks? It's because, a lot of production happens to be mirrored off of things we see on TV also, like ESPN and things like that.
And that's
a little bit of that too, or do you think that's
the problem, isn't it? Like we've never been allowed to have our own identity because everyone's tried to shit on it. So gaming culture somewhere along the line became the go-to culture to be sort of unilaterally reviled. And I don't know where or why that happened. But I remember I was alive for it. I was acutely aware of it because it never used to be that way. I remember the first like advertisements for the home computers, and it was a family thing, and it was like, cool, and people it was like going to revolutionize your lives, being able to play Pong or whatever the fuck it was. And then somewhere along the line, it just became, if you sit in and play games, like it's you're doing that in place of being a success in other areas of your life. That was where it started. The rise of nerd culture and sort of the people that were pushing back against that. That's where it all goes wrong historically. And then it's like, okay, so it starts out fairly innocuous. You're just antisocial. You're just not very successful. You're not good with girls. Well, we can all handle that. Where could this go next? That's going to be a problem. Oh, well, because I'm antisocial and not good with girls, I might get a bit angry about it and start polishing a gun before I go to bed and talking to myself and fantasizing about killing all of the people who've ever wronged me. And then lo and behold, we get a school shooting, which is always going to happen in a country with the gun laws America has. And I'm not against the gun laws. As I've said many times, I think America has a mental health problem masquerading as a gun problem. I am not, no, for real.
Okay.
For fucking real.
Right.
Sure. Yeah.
For fucking real. It's not, the gun problem isn't the fucking issue. Canada has similar fucking gun laws. Japan has similar fucking gun laws. Other countries have similar fucking gun laws. There's a mental health problem masquerading as a gun problem. I used to be a liberal. I used to be anti-gun ownership. I'm not now. Okay? Simple as that. I don't give a fuck what anyone thinks about that. Anyway, so yeah, you get these school shootings, and then what's the first question they ask on the fucking news broadcasts? What games did he play? And you're like, well, I don't really know how that's relevant. No. Was there a gun? Was there a gun in the game he was playing? Well, yeah, he played Call of Duty. There it is then. That's what did it then. Yeah, but what about all these other emotional problems? Like he was seeing a psychiatrist, absent from his parents, who didn't have a good upbringing, was bullied at school. No. He played Call of Duty. It's got to be that. Somebody gets shit on by the mainstream press about being school shooters, and you're like, well, it's got to end there. Nope, because then 9/11 happens, and now any game that has a vaguely military theme is a terrorist training simulator. They're training terrorists. It's actually interesting because radical Islamists do believe in a respawn, but you are being a trained terrorist. All right? You're like, well, fucking hell. School shooters, terrorists. Where's it going to go now?
It would be baller as fuck, though, if ISIS actually were playing like Quake or Counter-Strike or something. That's how they did train to get really good. Like if one guy, like if they could prove that guy's AK got better from playing T-side on Cobble, I would be impressed.
Right? The thing is, the
Daily Mail,
the Daily Mail actually published an article referring to Call of Duty as a terrorist training simulator. That's absolutely fucking true. Google it yourself. So then you're like, right, where are we going now? Well, the great boogeyman of our times now is hating women, which of course none of us do. And it's a callback to the one right at the start, isn't it? About how we all hate women because we can't get women, because we're all unsuccessful, hideous chuds, and we just sit in our fucking basements and we don't go out and we don't have fun. So now we're all misogynists. Gamergate isn't a consumerist movement. We hate women. We're doing it to drive women out of gaming. We want to protect our culture. And all of this bullshit, right, that's been fucking presented about gamers is just fucking echoed fucking repeatedly. And here we are, because of that, in esports, an extreme niche of a niche, we're so insecure. We're so fucking insecure that we have to try and... I'm not a gamer. I mean, I am. I play them and stuff. But, like, look, I got a suit on and I'm not a terrorist or anything, and I'm good. I don't even hate women. Look, I'm talking to women in this photo. Ha, ha, ha. Look at me hover hand. Ha, 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 ha. I'm normal. Ha, ha, ha. That's fucking esports. That's what esports has become, a projection of this fucking insecurity that people have because they will not just be comfortable in their own skin. You're a fucking gamer. You're a fucking nerd. Deal with it. It's not, you don't have to be a fucking retard just because you are those things. You know?
What if Al-Qaeda read these stories and then they actually like kidnapped Olofmeister and they were like, train him to use the AK.
It's possible. But, hey,
all right,
actually,
getting back.
Like this. Obviously, my colleague at Breitbart, Milo Yiannopoulos, he printed an article.
Also, then obviously all terrorists would just be mad high on Adderall, drinking Gatorade, spinning around doing 360 no-scopes.
Yeah, but we don't want that, Duncan. That's bad. That's bad for everyone if they can hit
and hating women. It's only then that the only thing that would make ISIS actually hate women and radical Islam is if they started to become gamers, obviously.
Yeah, of course, right? Because they're very progressive apart from that. But you know, like Milo, just as an aside, Milo Yiannopoulos wrote an article over on Breitbart. Please Google this, and it's about the statistical likelihood. You're more likely to. This is so outrageous. You're more likely to, as a white person, to join a jihadist movement if you've got red hair. And the reason for that is apparently you're used to this, like being bullied and isolationist outlook. And that's why the majority of white jihadists have red hair. Honestly, Google it. It's statistically there. It's statistically there. Just read it. It's fucking hilarious. So anyway, you know, look, I think getting...
What do you want?
I can corroborate this. I was thinking of joining ISIS actually, but they told me that their targets would only be major Western countries. So I was out.
God. All right, so Rich, how do you
edgy?
What do you want it to be like then, Rich? Like, what do you want these productions to look like? You in sandals and
listen. Here's the problem, right? It's not that I have an issue with these guys going out and living the fantasy, you know, like wanting to be the fucking rock star, wanting to be these successful people. No, because it's the point, right? Like, go and do that. Do you? And if you're happy with being that, if you think that's a representation of you, go do it, baby. Oh, look, I mean, found it. There it is. Go do it, right?
Go do it.
For real, just go do it. But here's the problem. They don't just go and do it. What they do is they tell the people who wanted to invest in esports, this here is what esports is. And you see that guy who's always wearing a coat and scarf in his bedroom, and everyone talks about it, makes memes about it. Don't hire him, yeah? Don't hire him because he's too edgy. He's too edgy. He's not about esports. 15 years covering it, of course. 15 years writing about it and promoting it and making it accessible to people, and you know, just a fucking produces content every day. But fuck him. Oh, and you see that overweight bald guy? Yeah. Don't hire him. The one who like does all the investigative stuff and rocks that boat, that money making boat. Yeah, definitely don't hire him. right? Because he's too much. He's too much. He's not good for business. So if those people, right, would actually, if they cared about esports and they were from esports and they just wanted to wear a suit and just get up on stage and just do their thing, wouldn't have a beef with it. Problem is, as soon as they get through that window of opportunity, they start barring it shut like they're in a fucking zombie apocalypse. Like, no, can't let Duncan through. Duncan's too crazy. Richard's too edgy. Opportunities for us. And then you're like, okay, well, no one else can get an opportunity. Nah, jobs for the boys, of course. Jobs for the boys. What's that? Get Chobal Peon in there as if he was the most relevant esports journalist of all time. Should we do that, shall we? Yeah? Let's get Slasher on there. Someone who can't even turn up on time to his own fucking show, which was the only thing that kept him relevant in esports for 2 fucking years, and he can't even turn up on time. And Scoots is having to carry it because DJ Wheat's already sold out at Twitch and all of a sudden can't have an opinion. But it's live on 3. Esports without the fluff, guys. No fluff here. Now, about that evil geniuses while swigging a fucking monster. What the fuck? Are we all mentally ill? Like that? No one's going to call out this bullshit? Well, I guess I'm the crazy one, right? I'm the crazy one. Those guys have done more fucking hold back job opportunities for people.
Here's what's going to happen, Rich.
Than anyone else.
So I'm going to pretend I was Asian, right? I don't know, Richard. Like, I know Marcus is like I know you've had your differences, but he's like a good guy, man. And Scott, Scott. Good. Listen, Scott does have like opinions, and like, but I think he's pretty no fluff. I think he's pretty no fluff. He's pretty no fluff. But what do you think?
Pretty good impression, actually.
Not bad, right? Not bad. Yeah.
You sound nothing like me.
So
you sound nothing like me.
This is my fundamental problem. That those guys, okay, who profess to love esports and want to grow esports, they've actually held back legitimate talent that have made contributions to esports. They've come out and shit on us at every turn, right? And here we are now, me and Duncan, right? Fuck. I've been doing this 12 years almost, right? Duncan's been doing it way longer. Right, like now we're finally starting to get some attention commensurate to our talents and passions for this game. Right?
Wait.
And the only reason we didn't earlier was because of mafias and fucking cliques.
Okay, let's talk. That's
the fucking fact.
Let's talk about this. Okay. So prior to the last, I don't know, last 2 years, I guess, or so. I mean, you guys were you guys were writing pieces. You guys weren't in front of a camera, and for the most part.
Okay. So, yeah, that's the point.
Yeah, no. Let's talk about it.
Why weren't we?
Yeah. So I want to exactly. So that's kind of what that's what you're basically saying. That's just basically there are some people that were preventing you from being in front of a camera.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Absolutely. I'll tell you stories about how when I worked for Heather Media, I got told I couldn't even go to Heather Media events because someone in the company said so. Right? I'll tell you about times that people came to me and offered me shit and said, do you want to come and host an event or like just see how it works or cast an event? Mm-hmm. And then people would come in and say, you can't do that. They're like, they're a rival company. I'll tell you about times I got fucking offered stuff and then all of a sudden it would be off the table or something's come up. We don't know what it is. And then you'd find out like a year later that some guy who fucking kisses you on both cheeks, fucking Fredo from The Godfather fucking style, has like fucked you over. And then, on top of that, like these people hold fucking grudges for fucking years, 4 years. And as I said on the previous fucking show about Slasher and how I was willing to squash beef to help him get a job, because I didn't like the idea of seeing an established esports veteran on his knees and starving. These people will take the fucking bread out your mouth. Even though they don't need it now, they're not doing it for them. They ain't doing it for them. They're doing it because they just do not want you to succeed. It's just
dominance, right? It's just like the female hyena fucking the male with its enlarged clitoris. Doesn't do it because actually the dick just does it assert dominance.
I don't even know how you fucking know that, by the way.
Where did that come from?
I don't even know how you
have a faux penis. Look it up.
I'm going to Google that.
No, but
look it up.
Here's the thing. ChanMan, I'll put this very simply.
Okay.
So if you did a random poll of people who just follow esports but on like a casual basis, they'd probably assume that me and Richard are like some of the biggest assholes who've done the most fucked up shit. Okay. If you were to list like my worst crimes ever, it's like this. It goes like, said while frustrated at late at night, said I thought Poland's shit. Obvious hyperbole.
Where's that at?
Said that Reginald is like a character from a movie, which obviously played on a joke that he's ugly as fuck, but then people turned that into racism. There's the 2 worst things I've ever done, by the way. They're all on record. There's nothing else anyone could ever list that's some sin. So I've been around 15 years, 15 whole years, and many people didn't like me. There's 2 things you can ever list, ever. Now, the people who are considered heroes, legends, wonderful people in esports, the ones who now are on press circuits doing like panels about esports and what should we do? Such morality involved in esports now. And what's the correct philosophy on how we should guide it? And the ones who say stuff now like, oh, I wish people wouldn't be so petty about things. Back in my day, we all just kind of worked towards the better good of esports. Those exact people have literally denied people jobs, fired people, had gone to people with special relationships and said, don't hire this person, like he's a piece of shit, he's an asshole. I've never done that in 15 years, mate. In fact, I used to be so naive. I used to actually hire people who I didn't even like if I actually thought they were good at their job at some of the sites I've worked at when I was the editor-in-chief. I have never, only one time in 15 years have I ever denied someone work, even indirectly. And that was actually Richard, when we had to take part in a vote, which, by the way, wouldn't have actually mattered. Like, it's not like my vote would have swung it and he would have been hired. But regardless, because at that particular time, I voted no to him joining our company, and that's it. That's the one time in 15 years I denied him. And you notice that wasn't some malicious thing. Someone literally just asked me my opinion, and they didn't say you're going to decide. They said, do you think right now we should hire this person? And I said, no, I'll say no for now, actually. I think it's okay as it is.
And to be fair, I'd done something that was colouring out the lines, which is why Duncan had an issue with it, and it involved a mutual friend. And that's all sorted now. But like, I understand Duncan's decision. Duncan told me straight. I respect Duncan for that.
That's the whole on-gamers thing.
And that's another thing. By the way,
I also actually, Richard.
Here's the thing, though. I also actually told Richard this. I told him the details, and I told him this is why. I never like kept it hidden and pretended to be this holier than thou person and said all. So the whole point is, there are tons of these scumbags that's still in massive head positions in esports who have literally, sometimes it's one thing if it was like a scarcity period. It's still kind of fucked up, I think, ethically, if you think you're good at it, your job, to fuck someone else out of a job. But I could at least vaguely understand the motivations. What I don't get is the people we're talking about right now, including some of the names you've mentioned, Chris, are still, to this moment and second in time, probably as they're watching this, messaging people trying to fuck me and Richard out of future jobs, even when they will never get that job and have no interest in that job.
And I'm glad you brought it up, because it gets back to the point I wanted to make. So after the last week's Unfiltered, I've had nothing but fucking contact about how I might want to, tone it down, how we might all want to be friends. And this is what's hilarious. These guys think that they can go after people like me, people like Duncan, with impunity because they're used to it, because everyone endorses it. But like I say, the last week, people are trying. Oh, what's that? Turner might be interested in hiring him. Well, can't have that. Can't have Richard Lewis actually succeed and achieve something he wants to do with his life. So I'm going to make a few phone calls and just ask if that's possible. Yeah, I'm going to talk to a few people. Yeah.
You know that? I mean, that's actually happened?
Man alive. Here's the best things.
No, I mean, like, for a fact, you know that?
Come on.
Dude, okay.
Put it this way. I don't get called asking, oh, what happened on the last Unfiltered, unless someone has brought it up with my fucking agent at best, or someone else at
that's
work,
details
right?
I don't know, right? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, you have to realize what's great now is these people are so used to us being the scumfucks who make the $10,000 who just only work at one website that they are so dumb they don't even think this stuff will get back to us. They think it's like 2009 and they can say all this stuff and that everyone else in the industry doesn't know us and they'll be like, oh, I'm sure it's all true. What they don't know is because we've worked with so many people now who we're friends with, or we've just been stand-up people to, even if we didn't get along with them, most of those people, when they hear this fucked up shit, if they're not people who are going to engage in it and actually deny us jobs, actually come to us and say, oh, by the way, this person said all this stuff to me and this person was just contacting me now and you might want a heads up. This guy's going for your job right now and he's contacting people who you might be about to be hired by for no reason, just telling them not to hire you. And so watch out.
You know the risk for me and Duncan right now at this particular time coming on and doing an Unfiltered, not because we're idiots, not because we're going to say anything bad, but like just the simple act of telling the truth is like some sort of fucking subversive act in esports. Just being honest is like enough to potentially jeopardize your fucking career, right? But I'm like, I can't do it anymore. I can't fucking sit here and just be like, yeah, all right, this isn't happening, because it's happening. Let's talk about some sins. Let's talk about these guys that are held up, right? Let's talk about some of the shit that went on in the past. So, for example, on gamers, Duncan's alluded to it. I'm going to not necessarily run with the ball and get it over the line. I'm pretty sure my boy Duncan's got that covered. But here's the reality, yeah? I know Slasher has not only just, like, failed to deliver on certain stories that he had all the tools to go out and deliver. He's buried stories deliberately, purposefully to serve an agenda where he gets work, an agenda where the websites he works for is successful. He has effectively lied to the community or suppressed information that was in the public interest that he had access to, done it repeatedly. And then you're like, okay, well, you know, we all make mistakes. We all make errors of judgment as journalists. And hey, and I'm not the same, but like I get a lot of stories come my way. I can't publish them all. There's not enough hours in the day. All right, I got to rely on some of the people to take up the slack. But let's talk about Travis and Slasher and the shit they were running in their on-gamers heyday. Let's talk about that, right? Travis, the League of Legends journalist, Slasher, the whatever, right? Here's what they were doing. So they basically told, and I got proof of this, I'll happily drop it anytime anyone wants. They basically told an organization, XDG, it was at the time, to go on record saying I lied about something that was true. They were second to a story. They hated the fact that I was getting all of the League of Legends information before them, that I was breaking roster swaps before them and affecting on-gamers traffic. And rather than just respect the craft and respect what I do and respect the source network, they actually told an organizer who was pissed, a team owner rather, that was pissed about me leaking that information to go on record and say I was lying. He was never going to volunteer that. He was never going to say that. They specifically told him, could you add that Richard Lewis is a liar? Right? And the guy went, yeah, of course, fuck Richard Lewis. So they did it and they published it. Right? That's how they were running game over On Gamers. That was your fucking high tier reporting. And then you're like, okay, well, that was a one-off, right? It wouldn't have been a one-off because I got a fucking On Gamers staff member when Travis was bragging about what he'd done. And again, all of this, obviously Rod presides over this, and they told me the truth. And I showed it to Kim Rom, and I said, I'm going to go public with this because this is a fucking unethical breach of unparalleled proportions. You are putting quotes in a source's mouth as a journalist. And guess what happened? Travis apologized to me and said, let's never be mean to each other ever again. Right? That's how shit gets done behind closed doors, unfucking fortunately. Doesn't end there, of course. Doesn't end there, of course, these journalists that everyone holds up on these pedestals. Travis, for example, I don't know. Perhaps maybe if you were a journalist, you might want to retain some level of independence. Nah. Team Liquid say to Travis, want to do some content? Yeah. But what would I get for this? Oh, how about a holiday in Maui? Right? So he goes and he does the content and he's interviewing them in a hot tub. And that's just bad enough in isolation. Like, at least declare, you know, Team Liquid paid for a holiday or whatever. No. Nope. Then, when Chris Badawi didn't poach someone from Team Liquid, didn't break any fucking rules, Steve Arhenset goes to Travis and goes, hey, do you want to be the fucking instrument of fucking over this other team owner because we don't like him? And the only reason that they did this wasn't because of the poaching, but because they thought he had ties to Martin Shkreli, which he did very briefly. We all know where Shkreli ended up. And they were worried about a billionaire coming in and breaking up their millionaire boys club. Right? So Travis went, yes, absolutely. I will unequivocally publish 8 criticisms of Chris Badawi, about 2 of which have any foundation. And I will use my platform for doing that for you, who paid for a holiday to Maui. Right? And that's considered ethical. Also, Travis and Rod, they used to fucking press gang fucking peripheral manufacturers to give them free shit all of the fucking time. Like, hey, Razer, can we get a laptop from you? Can we get a laptop from you? Can we get a laptop from you? And they would take it. I wrestle every fucking day about taking a job with a DreamHack or an ESL. I think we've proven it doesn't affect my impartiality at all. I think we've proven that by the stories I've published down the years, right? But I wrestle with it. I probably shouldn't have that relationship. I'm willing to admit that. The idea that there isn't some fucking old boys club that go around and run game doing whatever the fuck they want to whoever the fuck they want, and it's endorsed by all the power players in the industry is a lie. It's still going on to this day. Fortunately, people like me and Duncan are actually starting to tear it down a little bit. Thank fucking God for us, right? Nah, you're the assholes, though. It's bullshit.
Okay. Well, um, yeah. I mean, we touched on this last week too, so it's like I don't
No,
want to keep.
I would hear Duncan's
Listen,
shit.
Richard, I
It's
think
like-
that Rod's a good guy. And I know you guys don't get along, but
No,
I
actually,
feel like if
No,
we
it's
just,
just you know.
I'm
we
just
just
gonna
pitch
take
him on
over.
the show.
I'm a
He gets to come on the
co-host.
show now. Can I just have him on the show?
I'm a co-host, right? So
Yeah.
I'm in times of distress.
Rod wants to come
when,
on, man, it's
much like the vice president, when the president is no longer fit for office, the vice president steps in. Chris, you're no longer fit for office. Duncan, what do you think about this? I just
Oh
got an
my
email
God.
today.
Oh
I just
my
got an
God.
email
All right,
today
all right.
telling me Slasher is actually now, after I published that Jens story, the Jens Hilger story about FaZe, and how he has an involvement with it, and they basically strong-armed FaZe by threatening them with an ESL, ESEA ban because Jens sits on the ESL board. Do you know what ESPN are going to do? ESPN told interviewees, we do not want to break news. Multiple interviewees who've all told me this, so they're definitely not lying, independent of each other, of course. They don't want to break news, but they're going to take a platform. And again, ESL and ESPN have a relationship of some sort. I think it's just coverage partnerships at this point. And they're going to basically deconstruct my story and prove me I'm a liar. What do you think about that, Duncan? Doesn't that seem weird?
No, I mean, that's fucked up. That's actually one of the things that you'll find in this general trend in the industry. Obviously, Slash is a good example, but other people as well, commentators, other journalists, is that these people are so insecure because oftentimes they're either incompetent or they're just okay at their job that they have to also destroy other people's work as well. Like they think the way to put themselves up is to drag you down a bit. Whereas personally, that's one of the reasons I've never had to fuck anyone over. If there's someone out there who I don't like, I go, how about I just do way better work than them and fucking crush them by being better than them? That's not end of story. It has never been a problem. That's why I'm at the position I'm at now. And all the people who were my rivals, none of the people watching the show know. They all quit. They all gave up. None of them are here. None of them are getting the good paycheck. So that's how I won, is just by actually essentially making out the best scenario for myself. I've never had to fuck anyone else over. And I mean, one of the sick things is, I'll probably do something about this myself, but the sickest thing about the Slasher example is that Slasher has now actually worked to fuck with me in my employment when I literally put the best job I ever had on the line to keep this person employed. When someone floated the idea to me of, would you be on board with us firing him outright? I told them, he's a friend of mine. And even though he's going through a hard time now and hasn't done any work in about a month or so, I think he could get it together. And if you just give me some time to talk to him, I'll convince him. Like, he just has to do a couple of pieces and then he can still be hired. And they were like, yes, but we're asking you, yes or no, would you be on board with him fighting? And I said, in fact, you know what? Let's not even have this discussion. I will leave this company if you fire Slasher. And they said, okay, let's just forget we had this conversation, because at the time my numbers were really good. That sort of person has just out of spite, never done anything to him, actively tried to fuck with me in my job. Good guy, right?
And this is what I mean. People don't realize what's going on. Like people don't, right? Yeah, me and Duncan with divisive figures because we
here's
speak our
one
minds.
thing I'll say, Richard. Here's the genius thing that the other people do why they never lose. They never do any of it in public. They never, ever tell anyone to fuck off in public, never send a rude Twitter message. They always present them on Twitter, this fake persona that they're holier than thou and they're wonderful people. So as a result, I can understand why the guy in public who doesn't know any of the behind the scenes shit thinks we're just like the assholes who are doing all this. If we're getting mad triggered, it's because people are literally fucking with us, then coming out in public like, why are you upset? Are you not liking the way the industry is? After they just like straight tried to fuck you behind the scenes.
But you know what I'm hoping is that finally none of this is going to matter. But here's the problem: let's say me and Duncan ascend to the fucking pantheon of where we fucking actually belong to be after like loyally serving this fucking industry and doing stuff that wasn't fucking conducive to a good career. I had so many opportunities like to fucking just take the fucking money and shut the fuck up. I had so many opportunities on the table. I never did it. I lost job opportunities because I didn't do it the first time, and people were going, I don't know if you can play ball. Play ball means take the money and shut the fuck up, right? Well, this is the year I'm going to take the money and shut the fuck up. I've said it before and Unfiltered. It's happening. It's happening this year, right? There'll be if I get a job that I hope to have, right? If I get the job I hope to have, there'll be no more investigative journalism. It'll be hugely inappropriate and unethical for me to do it, right? So what are we left with, news outlet-wise? Who's going to be breaking these stories? Won't be ESPN, folks. Won't be ESPN. Think about that. It won't be ESPN. So where are you going to go? Daily Dot?
Daily Dot.
What, Jacob Wolf's the only guy left? Well, Riot and their little Reddit mod cronies are coming down on him with a fucking hammer blow every time he publishes a story, even to the point where like people are entertaining, banning his stories from the fucking subreddit, same as what got done to me. That's the state of esports journalism. There won't be anyone to tell you the uncomfortable truths. You'll all have the little utopia you want. Meanwhile, every day, players are going to get fucked. Meanwhile, every day, tournament organizers are going to do unethical and shady bullshit things. Every fucking day, that's going to happen. And I won't be able to talk about it anymore because I'll be thinking about me for fucking once, right? That's what's going to happen this year. For real, that's happening. So all of these people that are going to try and tear it down, you don't need to tear it down. In fact, one of the reasons I kept doing what I've been doing for so long is that you keep trying to tear it down. The reality is, all you had to do was let me succeed, and I would have had to shut up because that's how it works. That's how the game is played. Once you take the paycheck, they ain't just buying you because you're good at your job. They're buying the silence. I'm taking it this year. For fucking real. Believe. So good luck. Good luck with esports, guys, because there'll be more backroom deals being done. There'll be all these people that look at him. He said, let's do a custard pie fight on ESL. He'd never do anything unethical. Yeah, they're the worst people. You get suckered in every time. Your little fifis can't handle other people maybe delivering opinions in an unfiltered and raw manner, and because of that you're going to try and hound those people out of the industry, people who have fought for player rights, people who fought for fan rights, people who've exposed financial corruption. They're the people you come down on. Meanwhile, you let all these corrupt little fucks play you like a fiddle. You ought to be fucking ashamed. I can't wait to be at a point where I don't have to deal with that anymore, frankly, because it's fucking ridiculous. And right now, by the way, when ESPN released a little hatchet job about the story that I published, which I know is good and I could prove it, right? But to prove it, I'd have to burn a source and invalidate their anonymity. So I'm ethically bound and can't do it. I'm going to get shit on. I'm going to get shit on by these same people, right? Isn't that great? What a great system we've all built for ourselves. Yeah, but no old boys club, by the way, guys. No old boys club. No. Nothing to see here. Nothing to see here. These people are great. Slash is a great guy. Definitely deserves the ESPN job, despite having run on gamers into the fucking ground, despite even now going to people. Shit, man. I got messaged the other day. Check this Slasher guy out. He asked a top-level CS team for an interview. At what point do you work this into the conversation? I'll let the audience decide. Hey, I'm Slasher from ESPN. I'd like to interview you. You may have heard Thorin and Richard Lewis saying bad things about me, but they're just trying to gang up on me and ruin my career because they're jealous that they didn't get the ESPN job. Would you still like to do an interview? What ESPN job? Right? I interviewed for the ESPN job. Again, demonstrably, I can prove that. Right? I didn't want that. I'm hoping the Turner thing works out. Right? I'm hoping Turner come to me and say, hey, Richard, we want to give you a job. If that doesn't work out, I'll keep you in Richard Lewis, right? I got my shit sorted in my mind as to what I want to do. Duncan, first Slasher reached out to him and said, can we share a byline? Because I don't want to work, but I want credibility. Then Duncan's like, well, why don't I just do it? Because I'm the fucking guy in CS. And then they were like, okay, well, that's great. Then Duncan writes an article for them. How did that go, Duncan?
Yeah, basically, even though I think Slasher's an idiot, I was willing to just forget about all that shit. He can ruin his own career because I didn't know about the shady shit he was doing again. I thought that was some shit from a year and a half ago. So what happened was they asked me through a different source, not Slasher, obviously. I don't communicate with him. Someone else came to me, a totally independent body who seemed like they had nothing to do with it, and said, oh, we'd like you to write this piece for ESPN. I said, okay, well, you know, what would the fee be? Here's what we're going to agree on. Here's what the sort of piece would be. We'd agreed all the details. And I'm like, when do you want this piece by? They give me a deadline. I finish the piece, hand it in on the deadline. First of all, on the deadline, I'd ask them, oh, where do I send this piece? They tell me exactly where to email the piece. Once I've emailed it, and I said, right, I've just sent it. They say, of course, we'll have to just wait a little bit and just check a few inconsistencies or something. And I was like, well, what do you mean, though? I mean, I've just sent you the piece. I mean, you've got a deadline, just figure out when you're going to publish it. And they were like, no, but the thing is, there's a few people are still discussing like whether or not like you should be able to, like you should be working with us or you shouldn't be. Oh, wow. So I just said, okay, well, you know what? I'll solve this problem for you right now, mate. I mean, if something's changed, obviously, I mean, you're having to debate whether or not I'm worthy to be on an important magazine. So don't worry about it. I'm not going to. So you can forget about that piece. In fact, delete it. I'll go and publish it somewhere else. And you guys can just have a great life. And so there we go. It's weird how that offer changed overnight, though, after I criticized Slasher. What do you think it could be? Can't figure it out. It's like my old buddy again. You know, the one that I offered to have my job given up and have to go back to making the $10,000 a year and just living in this room in fucking Northern England, having no future, no holidays or anything. Remember that guy where I offered to give that up? Oh, that guy helped me out again by fucking denying his own site, me writing a great piece. Like, actually, I just published exactly this piece. I just published it on Splice. It's called Drowning in Counter-Strike. And it was about my history in Counter-Strike. And I kind of made it a little bit poetic. And I tried to like tie a lot of different things together so that someone who hadn't followed the game for 15 years could at least see like some interesting factor and how the game changed. This probably would have fit right in at ESPN, right? Wouldn't this be a nice piece? No, because that's the thing. No one else is allowed to win unless they pay fealty to Slasher. So even if he loses a little bit by his site not having credibility in a better piece, it's okay as long as I don't get to win in any way. So there you go. That's the mark of the man you got. Notice in this story, I didn't go, well, I actually don't need the money I make enough from writing. I won't work for you because you have Slasher. I never said that at any point in time. Never at one point in time ever even brought Slasher's name up. Never said, wait a minute, don't you hire? I think he's actually shit at his job and has done corrupt things, so I won't work for you. No, what I thought was, you know what? I've seen a lot of the ESPN stuff. Some of it's not very good, but you know what? Maybe I have an opportunity to change that. Maybe I can do some good stuff. And one day, if ESPN's here in 15 years, let's say all the same people aren't hired there. But at that point, it is a legitimate thing. And it's somewhere where other people who are good can have a job. That's the difference in mentality between some of the people in the industry and the other people in the industry.
So, I mean, look, I didn't want to make it a whole like fucking thing. But like literally, people are trying every fucking goddamn damn day to fucking hurt what we're doing. Right, every day, and we wake up and we just do our thing. There's no politics. Like me and Duncan aren't subtle enough to do fucking politics. I'm not interested in any of that. Like I just want like the best for esports, best for players, best for me, right? And I'll admit that it's not a dirty fucking word, but I want it to all somehow interlock. I don't see it as all mutually exclusive. I think everybody can succeed in this industry, but no. There's people out there right now that do not want good people to succeed unless they bend the knee, kiss the fucking ring, and all the other bullshit. Well, no, I'm not doing that. I ain't going to start now, 12 years in. And if that means that I'm going to miss out on some opportunities because they're going to pull some strings and pull some fucking, and play some cards, fine. Then so fucking be it. But I came into this industry being myself. I'll go out of this industry being myself. One way or the fucking other. It's as simple as that. So
here's a great example, Rich, of like the way that this is more general than just Slasher. This is people in the industry who are shady like this. Yeah. So there was a company. I mean, I pretty much obviously people are going to be able to guess this, but we'll just say a company who the potential was there. Maybe I could work with them again. Now, not the reason I'm not working with them is because I'm not good enough, or they don't even want me to work with them, or they don't think it'd be a good broadcast. But for whatever reason, they think that, okay, we don't want to work with this person right now. So rather than ever contact me and say, oh, listen, it's not going to happen, don't worry about it. Instead, what they do is through the grapevine, multiple different directions, they send me this message through different people. If the criticism of us was just to sort of like peel back a bit, if it was to be a bit reduced and reined in a bit, just for say a few months, 3 or 4 months, if you were to just rein in the criticism a little bit, then maybe we could work together again. Maybe you would be the right person to work for this podcast. So on one hand, they literally want me to just not criticize anything they do, no matter how fucked up, on the hope that one day I might get a job, not even get a job now. It's not even a good offer, actually. Like, they're not even trying to buy me. They're saying one day we might buy you if you do all the things we want now. So it's actually a terrible offer. But then again, this company's dog shit doing business. And then on the other side, the same company has people within it where, and remember, they don't like criticism. They think this is the problem, where if any other organization runs a tournament and a single error happens on the broadcast, let's say an error the broadcaster can't even have any kind of issue over, internet problems, camera has issues with it, sound problems, these people are all over Twitter saying about all these problems and this is shit and this is the way done. And why is he doing it that way? Oh, there's really let that person talk more. Mad criticism to a level that I never do about ESL events, by the way. Ooh, oh, what have I done? The cat is out of the bag. Well, hypothetically about ESL, allegedly events, Chris. do I still get sued?
I mean, let's just right again. You want to talk about old boys club shit, right? So like, have you seen that they announced the fucking another guest columnist on ESPN?
Okay,
Did you see it?
Like,
have a guess. Yeah. Oh, there it is.
Oh, you mean Snoopy?
You mean Dan?
No, yeah, well, we won't even get into that. He'd fucking dance for food right now.
He's already done one for him.
Yeah.
Okay. Who else?
Am I relevant now?
Yeah.
It's Artur Sisman. Right?
Why not?
Why not, right? Why not?
If anything, he fits right in with Slasher. Start projects, never finish them, take money from
you know
people,
what?
don't do the work.
Do you know what, boys? Do you know what? I've never told this story. I've never fucking told this story.
Uh-oh.
Never, literally never.
Okay.
Why not do it tonight, right? Everything hangs in the balance. It's unfiltered. We're all going ham, right? Why don't we tell some stories? So here's a fucking story. Right? Oh, this is a good one. Okay. You like this one?
I feel like this is going to be one of those awards for like sneaky cunt of the year. Is it going to be in that category?
Oh, no. This is unreal. This is unreal.
Okay.
So everyone remembers the whole fucking Sons of StarCraft nonsense, right? And how there was a documentary. And it was basically just a fucking cash grab. Documentary was fucking terrible. On gamers build them out, predicated on personal relationships. Oh, you mean On Game is where Slasher was, and now Artosis is a paid columnist at ESPN? Oh my me, the ties that bind. So anyway, I'm at fucking which one was it now? It was DreamHack Stockholm, I think. Okay, now keep in mind, I've just done my job. I wrote some columns about how I thought Sons of StarCraft was basically duping the StarCraft community, and they were way behind on the documentary, and they'd all gone out and they'd all partied and they'd had some good times, and they were taking photos of each other. Hey, Vegas, baby, where's the documentary? And even though On Gamers came out and denied this, they were lying, of course. They lied about it. What they'd actually done was they bailed Jeff Alejos out. And they bought the documentary and basically re-edited it into something fucking usable, despite terrible sound and lighting issues throughout. And they were going to release it episodic, even though that was never the original plan. So I've done my job. I think I've fucking wrote about it and presented it to the community and said, don't get duped again next time there's a Kickstarter. Well, nice guy Artosis, lovable guy. Love Artosis, love Dan. Right, I'm in Stockholm, and Dan is at the after party, which is like, I think it was in the fucking, was it in the hotel lobby? I don't even know where it was, but we basically, there was a bar and there was a piano there, and I'm pretty sure it was in the hotel lobby, and we stood there, and Dan, drunk as fuck, comes over and starts pushing me in the fucking chest, pointing at me like, far worse than anything I did to Lauder, by the way.
What? That's worse than getting somebody's face when you put a finger to the chest, really?
Well, come on.
Okay, keep going. I wasn't aware.
I think we made physical contact for a short period of time, me and Lauder. Let's put it that way.
Okay.
So he's full on poking me in the fucking chest and giving me some mad lecture about like how the article I wrote ruined his fucking life, and he's got a kid on the way. I think it was at the time, or it might have just had it. And fucking, I'm taking food out of his mouth, and how fucking dare I, right? And what a piece of shit I am. And he's literally pushing me and just going fucking straight in, like fucking absolutely ham about this, right? And I'm like, look, mate, like all due respect, yeah, I just called it like I saw it. I think you have to admit there was some ethical concerns there, isn't there? Some ethical concerns. And he started getting right in my face, saying, the way you make your money, the way you make a living makes me sick, right? Like really hyper fucking aggressive. And I have to be like, look, brother, I've got a threshold and we're getting mighty close to it. And then I think, and what was really surreal was that while he was being really aggressive and poking me and being an asshole, fucking people were coming over and going, oh, Artosis, I love you. Can I get a photograph with you? And he'd go to me like, 1 fucking second, right? And he'd go over and he'd go, hey! And he'd have this mad fucking cheeser on that he could just pull out of nowhere. Definitely not a fake person, by the way. Definitely real. And he'd be like, big fucking grin on his face. Love you. Great fan. Off you go. And then he'd get back to like, you're a fucking piece of shit, you fucking asshole, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, after that, right, I only went and fucking heard about how like Artosis had been trying to leverage his fucking DreamHack relations. Why have we got Richard as a desk host? Why not Tasteless? Can't we do better than Richard? Yeah? So not only does he fucking try and get in an altercation with me at a fucking party because I wrote something that the community needed to know, he then once again went backstage, went back through the back channels and tried to fucking cost someone work, which was the reason he was pissed off at me. These are the people in esports that you have to deal with. Oh, but no, not lovable Artosis. Never him. Yeah, him too. All of them. They're fake. They're cutthroat. They don't give a fuck about you. They just want to monetize you out there in cyberspace. That's all you are. You're just numbers on a string. You're just donations. That's all they give a fuck about, right? And actually, they'll fuck people over, right? I had the same shit with Day 9. They're all fucking egotistical lunatics. You ask any fan I've met, right? I go drinking with them. I hang out. Does it make me a better person? No, but I just don't have the requisite level of fucking ego to treat them like they're not humans, right? Because they are, okay? And that's it, right? I'm just myself. Yes, that's bad sometimes. Yes, I might have a bit of a temper when people try and threaten to fight me, right? I might not be perfect, but I would never fucking run a game like that on someone. These are the people that everyone puts on a pedestal in this industry. Fake liars, one and all. So,
and there's obviously, it goes without saying, there's no tweet you can ever tweet about someone as an insult that matches up with trying to take their job. I'm sorry, that's the worst thing you can do to someone, because you can crush their soul by doing that, by literally having them fucking fired from their job and potentially not have job employment. Like, for example, it didn't used to be as big a problem in esports, because when they used to get you fired when you were 21, you didn't have a wife and children and all the rest of that bullshit. I know people who, some of the people we're talking about in this story, their decisions that have fucked up other parts of the industry literally had people lose jobs and be laid off who had like children on the way and stuff. And when I heard some of that stuff, that's the moment when I had to take a stand against some of these people who were even my friends. And I was like, I'm sorry, I can't be friends with someone who's literally essentially making kids so their dad doesn't have a job anymore. That's fucked up. Like, you can't be doing that.
Yeah. So, like I say, right, you know, of course, these people have a support network. You know, Dan, he's never going to struggle for work despite the shit he's done, because he's got people to bail him out. ESPN. Hey, the money tap's been turned on. Come and be a good little guest columnist for us. Yeah, we're going to make Thorin write an article for us, then not publish it or pay him for his time. But you, who I don't even know what you do anymore, you can have money because you don't rock the boat, do you? So yeah, fucking all boys club. It's not worse than it ever has been. I will say that, right? And here's how you know what we're saying is fucking true. I tweeted this, and I will stand by this. Right, in a CS:GO current talent pool, have you noticed how we've had new people rise? Moses, Yanko, Maniac, Sadikist. Have you noticed how this talent has all come through? And actually, we've got an abundance of talent. So much so that we're going, oh, what are we going to do? How are we going to fit everyone in at a major? We have to hire people as observers and then maybe make them guests as analysts, just so everyone can get a bit of airtime. Is there any resentment between any of us? Absolutely fucking not, by the way. We go to events, we party, we hang out with each other. We're all firm friends. We all talk when we're off air. We sometimes, we even meet up and hang out off air, right? Is anyone trying to fuck anyone else out of a job? Nope. Competition's good, right? Of course it is. I love all of those boys. They actually are my friends. I spend so much time working these days. That is actually my friendship group, right? I love all of them. But would that happen back in the day? Back in the days of the Got Frags? Back in the days of the CGS? Didn't, did it? In fact, we went for years in the post-CGS wilderness. How are we going to fit everyone in? Same with StarCraft. Do you know how many people I talked to wanting to come through with StarCraft casters who had to like literally crawl over broken glass with their fucking flies unzipped? Please, can I have an opportunity? You got Nick and Dan running fucking Korea like it's a fucking mafia thing. Ask some of the people who worked out there. They'll tell you. You ain't shit without their approval, like Godfather level shit, right? So why is that? Isn't it weird though? Isn't it weird how it happens in all these other scenes? But there's no all boys club. And yet here we are, me, Duncan, Anderson, Semler, you know, like all this other talent's coming through. How bizarre. How odd. Because it was fucking real. It was real the entire time.
All right. Well, let's end that session. It was almost like a psych section.
Way more interesting
than there. Psych session there.
Yeah. Guys.
Reality got counseling session, man.
What do you think?
All right, let's take
Guys,
some
emojis.
questions.
You think emojis of Koreans or Westerners would make people practice harder? What do you think? Emoji of Stefano? Inspire the kids?
Yeah, inspire the
All right, let's
kids.
take some questions, guys. If you wanna ask your own questions, post to Unfiltered GG, the Twitter account, and we'll start taking some of them. God, there's been a bunch here. Okay, let me see. I'm gonna have to find a few. Most of these are just there's like a ton of tweets here. I just need to find the actual questions. Okay, all right, here we go.
Yeah. You're calling people fake for being upset about your slanderous bullshit. Enjoy watching the scene pass you by. Andrew D'Amico. Finger on the pulse, brother. Finger on the pulse.
Who? Where?
He's an occasional Twitch streamer. That's just the shit I get tweeted. I retweeted it. Oh, by the way, actually, as of today, retweeting people's stuff, if it can be proven to have be intended to get negative responses towards them against Twitter's terms of service, you can be banned, just like Destiny. So.
Oh, really?
Yeah. There's been a terms of service update, I think. Okay. Breitbart, of course, going crazy about it.
But you're saying some good does come out of it.
Yeah. Well, no, I mean, Destiny was fucked anyway. Bomb threats were always against the terms of service.
All right, so Jacob Wolf tweeted. He says visa issue boys. So I guess he wants to talk about some of the League of Legends visa issues. Duncan actually made a whole video on it, and not sure if it's worth discussing versus just watching the video because I think it covered it quite well.
Well, there's one aspect that the video didn't cover, which was wasn't there a tweet that you made, Richard, that implied that TSM losing a match was like justice for something to do with this?
Yeah. I did. So,
was there a second component that I didn't talk about?
No, I think we deliberately haven't talked about it. I'm in the process of writing the story. I don't mind giving a sneak peek.
Okay.
People want to get into it. I think we've already fucking gone ham enough today, like.
Well, the main reason why we can't tell more stories, which is because half the people who fucked us over, luckily, are in such head positions. All the people watching won't even know who they are. We have to at least mention the people who are still known.
Yeah,
and that's brutal.
Yeah, no, but I mean, here's the thing, though. Of course, like even now, my Skype's blowing the fuck up. Richard, what? But I thought we were coup d'état. We're never coup d'état, motherfucker. Never. So anyway, yeah, fuck. Let me right. Let's just do it. Let's just fucking okay, and I need to set myself up for this shit. You don't understand, Chris. You're the most vanilla motherfucker on the planet. You just sit there and bring people like me and Duncan on and go, let's wind up the toys and see what happens.
I just don't want people getting fired from my show again, all right?
Well, no one's getting fired this time. We haven't even got jobs.
I'm trying to look out for you guys, too.
What would I have to do to get fired from Breitbart? Let's be real. Milo just opened a fucking scholarship for white men only. What would I have to do?
I can tell you, Richard, what will happen is eventually Slasher will get high enough in the Illuminati that he'll be able to get Andrew Breitbart or his relatives to actually get you fired, mate.
Back from the dead. So anyway.
I mean, they'll tell him, listen, mate, if you want to get that high in the Illuminati, you've got to fuck a few kids. They'll go, listen, it's nothing I haven't done before.
This is why I'm
metaphorically, of course, allegedly.
Oh my.
It's the perfect place for me. I don't need to worry about any of this bullshit. I can't do anything more outrageous than the people who are directly responsible for my employment. They encourage outrage. They love it. Right. So anyway, right.
Okay. Go ahead.
Basically, what happened was, okay, there's a lot of shit behind the scenes which people don't really know about. And there's two groups in League of Legends. There's two groups in League of Legends. You have the owners of basically any team that isn't Cloud9, Team Liquid, and TSM. And then you have those guys. And those guys are called the Three Kings. That's what every other League of Legends owner calls them. They have an alliance, and they basically use it to leverage Riot to making advantageous decisions for them. And occasionally they will also go after teams and owners, aka Chris Badawi, as one example. He's not been the only one, where they will basically try and use their collective bargaining power ultimately to put those people in advantageous positions. So what happened with Visa-geddon, as we're calling it? No one's calling it that. I'm going to.
I was going to say.
But no, if you want to use that hashtag Visa-geddon, I'm into that. It's pretty cool. So how does what happened here? So as I alluded to earlier, when Chris Badawi got fucked, he wasn't getting fucked because he tried to poach people. He got fucked because people thought he had access to Martin Shkreli's money. Martin Shkreli, again, you can Google him, but he has untold amounts of wealth. There was a lot of talk that he was going to buy, like the team that Chris Badawi was in charge of. It might have still been Misfits at that point, and everyone was super worried about it. Like people were saying to me, Chris Badawi's friends with billionaires. How can we compete? We're barely millionaires, you know? So it was okay to have a monopoly when the bar was $1 million. People coming in afterwards with billions, obviously they get, you know, they started a panic. So they consolidated power. Now, Visa-geddon occurred when the Three Kings, as we now know them to be, decided that they were a little bit upset with Rick Fox coming into the scene. But you're like, well, why target Rick Fox? There's other billionaires and philanthropists and venture capitalists coming into the league. Well, Rick Fox made a cardinal sin. He inquired about the availability of a retired TSM player. I will let you discern who that might be. It's pretty easy. And as a result
Rain
of that,
Man, baby. Rain
yeah,
Man.
Rain Man. Yeah, Rain Man's back, baby. And because of that upset fucking Reginald. And the Three Kings had a meeting, and they had a meeting with Riot. And basically the upshot was they were like, we're pretty sure that fucking Echo Fox can't have visas the full requirements in place, and we're really upset about this, and we think you should enforce it consistently. Of course, having benefited from themselves in past seasons, Riot's laxness, despite having highlighted how important it was to have this paperwork. For example, we all know Bjergsen came and fucking came to America and didn't have the P1 athletic visa and had to go back, and Reginald had to stand in for him. We know that happened. That's not even up for debate at this point. We can name multiple instances. What about back when Curse got Edward? Right? That guy from, I think it's Azerbaijan. No, not Azerbaijan. Armenia. Sorry, my bad. I knew it began with an A. I'm getting as bad as you for my grasp of geography, Duncan. I apologize. But, you know, of course, he was able to get in, no problem. Weird, isn't it? Weird how the rules, if anything, as they've become more scrutinized, it's actually been way more difficult to deliver on this rather than at the time when everyone was like, oh, this is a new thing, so it'll be difficult to implement. It's actually got harder over time. Makes no sense, right? Illogical. So they fucking basically agreed between themselves that it would be Reginald that would tweet out, hey, I wonder who Echo Fox are going to field, because I've heard that they don't have visas, as revenge for attempting to encourage one of his players who was still protected by poaching laws or whatever it is. And I don't even know if there was even a poaching attempt made. I don't even know if it was like just a half-assed inquiry. Or that's pretty much what I believe it to be. So everyone else got fucked on collateral damage because of the whims of 3 team owners in League of Legends.
And by the way, by everyone, he means the knock-on was then even EU players are all getting shanghaied out of the fucking league right now. So essentially, they've now cost people who might have families their income and their ability to live a life. Why? To gain a very minor competitive advantage over some teams, by the way, in NALCS, which weren't even as good as their own teams. That's the sickest part of it. Again, it's not enough that they succeed. They have to make sure you lose as well. And another fucked up part of this whole story goes like this. Do you remember that whole drama with Chris Badawi that Richard referenced earlier, where he was he essentially was no longer allowed to be an owner of an LCS team? Well, they were just coming into LCS because actually, I think it was while they were in Challenger, technically, because he did these things, poaching, that they said. But here's the thing. They never said he did the poaching after the rules were made. Explicitly, he did the poaching before poaching rules existed. So what they did was create rules, and they themselves have essentially admitted this, retroactively apply them and fuck him up for doing poaching, right? And Reginald was another one of the people, TSM owner, in favor of this retroactive application of rules. Well, guess what? If it turns out any player from TSM ever played on a tourist visa while earning a salary and playing in NALCS, then by their own logic of what they wanted done to Chris Badawi, now the rules should retroactively be applied. Because remember, you could easily find all that stuff out. That's not stuff that's now gone into the ether. It should now retroactively be applied so that they should be fined from day one and every game they ever used them and all this sort of stuff. Now, That's one way to do it. That's their way, by the way, consistent with their logic. Personally, I wouldn't want that because I already knew that esports was based on this fucking house of cards anyway. And that's incredibly hard to get into countries and that everyone's going saying they're on tourist visas to normal tournaments while competing in tournaments. So I understand the conceit. I don't agree that it's a good rule. I wouldn't have the law set up like that. So in my world, I wouldn't punish these people. But they themselves have tried to use rules against others that they don't want used against themselves when they broke the rules themselves. That's fucked up. That's just a classic example of what hypocrites people in esports are. This is where people are like, wait a minute, but you are a hypocrite because you said someone should fuck off. Like, yeah, all right, mate. I remember explicitly saying that was like the ultimate crime. Yeah. Okay.
I got called a hippogriff one time. That was pretty good.
At least that's creative.
Okay.
Yeah, I enjoyed that.
But you don't have a long neck though, so that doesn't even really work, does it?
I used to.
All right, Anders Simonson, where do you believe X Titan is heading? And do you think COD organizations such as FaZe is bringing more people to CSGO?
Do you want to do it, Dunk?
Sadly, I suspect X Titan is heading to an organization where they will be banned from ESL if they attempt to leave. See what I did there, boys? All the pieces. You put them together.
You think they'll end up at G2? I know they're still... Yeah, go on.
I've heard stories of other orgs that wanted them that they turned down. So unfortunately, I think they will be lured into thinking G2 is like a sick money ticket and it's European and all. I think unfortunately it all lines up because it does seem like the obvious one at the moment.
I mean, it would do because of all the money that they've just had coming in, but I don't know. They were still touting themselves to other orgs as of a few days ago, and I think I've heard what they're asking for. It seems a tad unrealistic. NIAC's still part of the deal as well. That's a deal breaker apparently. So I don't know how many organizations would feel good about bringing in a manager that, as we saw with TSM, when their team, the Danes, had a manager that was operating in the interests of the players rather than the org. TSM didn't like that very much. I'll let you decide whether or not that's okay. I can sort of maybe see both sides of the argument on that one when it comes to player rights, because you are getting paid by the organization ultimately, and you shouldn't be doing anything detrimental to the organization. But equally, the organization shouldn't be doing anything detrimental to the players, so it becomes complex. But I think NIAC is basically part of the package, and they've got to take it. And it's an extra salary, and they're not asking for small salaries by any stretch of the imagination. Arguably above market value for what they're worth in terms of results. So,
okay, Zixor, he asks kind of a question about: do you think the old boys club atmosphere has any chance of going away in the next few years? Like you're mentioning, making.
Unfortunately, he already mentioned a couple of names who weren't even old boys. So it's more a mentality than definitely people who were here 10 years ago. So that's the problem. To me, it's who gets to them first. Like some people, if they get fucked over, think, oh, this is how the game is played. And they start fucking people over. Whereas I think part of the reason why in his example about CSGO, we have a really cool bunch of people is because the ones of us who were there earlier set the example to them. Like, listen, avoid those people in the way they're going to fuck you over. I'm going to tell you straight up the way it is. I could fuck you over, but I'm not going to do it. Like, I'll give you some tips here. And so we fostered like a good, healthy fucking culture of those people. And hopefully that doesn't in some way get ruined. But it's hard to do. I think there are more pockets of it, partly because also there's not as much scarcity. Like one of the key things is when Richard made that joke there, that they can't fire us because we don't have jobs. No, that's exactly the secret. We don't work for any single company. I mean, Richard works for Breitbart, but it's not the same as like working an office job where the second the right person calls them, they fire you. So actually, the fact that the whole industry is bigger and there's way more opportunity in jobs, hopefully counterbalances some of this stuff because they can't end your job anymore. Basically, all they can do is ruin your character.
This is how Duncan beat the system and got to remain Duncan. I haven't really done that yet, but he took the gamble. He went independent, built up a YouTube channel. Like comfortably now, Duncan could write freelance and make videos every day and make a living. He'll never need a hosting gig ever again. He never. I mean, keep in mind, obviously, he's got a very good deal with Alpha Draft going on. Pray for Skrilla, please, fantasy betting. Please do not go under, right? He's fine. And that is literally, unfortunately, how you beat the system. because as long as you're beholden to these people, basically in esports, if people have flex, if people have power, they'll just use it.
So your answer is they'll never go away, essentially.
Well, I say we're definitely getting better, but I think it's quite telling that DJ Wheat came out of his fucking ivory tower just to have a few pops at me because I pointed out maybe Slasher has done some dubious things once in a while.
Chris,
you know, and
I think
he's
I know
the
the
vice
answer
president
here.
at Twitch.
Okay.
You know?
So
What's
wasn't this a quote from Game of Thrones? There's no cure for being a cunt. So no, certain people will never go away with this attitude. They will continue to be like that. And probably there's people like that in every crosswalk of life.
Yeah.
It's just that, unfortunately, in esports, there was like an abnormally large amount of these people, probably because in the early days of esports, when it wasn't a huge popular thing, there wasn't much money, you usually did have to have some weird fucked up reason where there was something wrong with your personality that you even got involved and went so hardcore at a computer game. So I think that's probably why there was a larger ratio of them, whereas now it's been filtered out a lot more, where I have to say a lot of the more recent people are just like cool people. Like they don't have this mentality of trying to fuck people over, and a lot of them aren't trying to like be part of that mentality either. They just want to have their part, and it's not as big a deal. So I think as it gets bigger, there'll still be the same number of cunts. They'll just be watered down.
Okay. August Ryden, he sounds like an aspiring writer. Wants to know, if I were to write an esports article, what kind of article would be the best to start off with?
The one that only you can write.
Okay. Yeah, that's
in life in general. I think people, if they're in a creative field, should just find the thing that they like to do, but they're also like is like that only they could do it in that way. And so you might not always succeed in this way. Maybe the niche for your stuff's incredibly small. But I think if you do that approach, if you ever do succeed, you'll have done it like on your own terms, and you'll have it. It'll be way more enjoyable than if you decide like to try and think, well, what do the audience want, and only do what they want. Then you'll always be in the position of just essentially you'll just be at the whim of whatever any random cretin who reads the article thinks.
Yeah, and I've quoted G.G. Allen on this show before. He always used to say the audience is my enemy. And I've always adopted that a little bit. Like I'm gonna write something you don't want to fucking hear, and you're gonna take it. You're gonna fucking take it, bitches, and you're gonna fucking either like it or you ain't gonna like it. But I don't go fuck. One of the worst things you can really do is sort of compromise. Compromise for me represents the kind of ultimate defeat. It's where you don't get to be yourself because somebody else who has something you need gets to say, I don't want you to be yourself. And a lot of people say the art of compromise is the secret to true success. I think the secret of true success is you don't compromise anything, and you basically get to a position where people need what you have and they have to fucking compromise to get to it. That's and you don't. You just get to be yourself. You get to be the person that you want to be.
You know what's funny about that, though, is that's basically a metaphor for what esports has done.
Yeah.
Esports tried to conform to everything they thought the real world wanted. It didn't work. They rejected us, weren't good enough. Now that some esports, I noticed the word some of them have just gotten really awesome in their own right. Now it's the other way around. Everyone else has to come to them and go, we want to be part of this. How do we get involved? Oh, is this the way you guys do things? Okay, we understand. We won't mess with that. And now it's way better this time that it's going big than it was when it did the last time.
Yeah, and you know that's exactly right. Like we don't have to fucking compromise anymore. There's still people out there who'll try and make us compromise because it's advantageous to us. There'll be people taking brown envelopes filled with cash to compromise and water down our product somewhere along the line. There's people playing hardball right now trying to get exclusivity. And I'm not just talking about leagues, I'm talking about broadcasting platforms. No one really wants to grow the pie if growing the pie means they have less. And that's just human nature, human greed, or whatever. But back to the person who wants to write an article, just write whatever the fuck you want. Don't be afraid of putting something out there. Never be fearful. All that can happen is you get downvoted on Reddit, you get abuse tweeted at you, you get celebrities occasionally come out and say what you've written is absolute nonsense. Well, fuck them. Get up, go back for seconds, keep going, and it's longevity that wins. You know, it's nothing else. These people will sell out and cash out long before you fucking even get an opportunity to. If you just keep getting up and doing it, you'll always succeed. Like, provided you're not shit.
All right, last question. Malky asks, will we have a big tournament in CSGO? Kind of like WCS or LoL World Championships. And well, he says the concept he thinks is really good. So do you see CSGO
I don't understand what the concept is.
I mean, do you... Well, the concept of just having a giant tournament at the or just a giant event at the very end of the season versus like
Well,
more
like
of
an international, basically.
yeah, more than just like
Okay.
majors and that sort of thing.
Right.
That's that setup, which I think is equally as good. But do you see CS:GO ever going that direction?
Problem is, I don't know what would be good about it. So one of my favorite sports is tennis.
Yeah,
And
me
in
too.
tennis, they
Me
have
too.
the 4 majors, okay?
Mhm.
The Grand Slams. And then they have a year-end event. And guess what? The year-end event isn't as
Nobody
cool as the
watches it.
major. Yeah,
Nobody watches it.
that's like an event that has the top 8 players at, but it's not as good. And instead, the reason why tennis is awesome is because we have 4 massive events a year and loads of other events as well. But if you just want to only watch the big one, those are the equivalent of 4 world champions. It's like that in CS.
Yeah.
We have 3 internationals every year. Yeah, the prize pool isn't there. That's the only problem. The tournament's fucking wicked, though. I've watched every League of Legends World Championship. Yeah, some of the games are good. I mean, obviously, it's unfair to compare the games because I like CSGO more. But just in terms of even the tournaments, I don't see what a League of Legends World Champion has that makes it better than any of the majors that have been done in CSGO, even the ones in Katowice.
Yeah.
I meant also the ones in
Nice,
Katowice. There.
nice.
So,
But what
listen,
about?
I've heard the crowd brings a lot to events. Creates that magic.
You're such an asshole. I would go League of Legends. I mean, would you say that internationals any different? I mean, with an even bigger prize pool and drawing even more hype, right? Because the international's always been compared to the Super Bowl of
Come on, man. It's the way you ask me these questions. I don't give a fuck if the players play for $20 billion or $1 as long as they play an awesome game. So here's the only thing about the international I'm jealous about is that it lasts like 14 days. I think that's awesome. I think that's a really good compromise between league lasting like a month and a half and CSGO events being like 5 days. I think 14 days. I maybe would do like 10 days, but whatever. I think that's awesome because it means you can then pick whatever format you want. It's like you're working in reverse. You go, right, I'll give you unlimited space. And I also, obviously, this is a personal preference thing. I actually, after watching all of the Dota 2 events that I've seen, I actually think best of 3 double elim is actually better than single elim best of 5. And we don't even have best of 5 sadly in CSGO. We have best of 3 there. So I actually think that having the double elim system is really cool as well. So those are the 2 things I'm jealous about. I don't give a fuck about the prize purse. That's one of those things, Chama, where it's more up your alley, where it's like, well, maybe if the money was more, then they'd be more inspired to play and practice.
Up my alley. Okay.
Mate, I think that you see the best games in the world when people used to get $10,000 for first place because the people were still people who were dedicated to the game, who wanted to be the best. And that was the only goal, to be the best. So it might seem cool. There is a novelty to seeing that big check with like the 20 billion or whatever, but I don't think it really has that much effect beyond that,
Yeah, just hype mostly. I mean, the nice thing about the majors is you have like 4 chances for just epic events every year too, versus just one
exactly.
all or nothing type of thing, right?
I mean, we've had that before, by the way. We've had majors in CS where, one of them, maybe the games, through no fault of the organizer, just weren't that good. Like the wrong team got through at the wrong point, and then they lost in a very easy match in the semi-final or whatever it would be. But because we have 3 chances at it, there's going to be one major that's going to be fucking amazing. Like obviously, I mean, we've had a couple that were really sick. I think ESL won Cologne last year was really good. The match is incredible. All the best teams there. All the right teams got to each stage of the tournament. It was fucking awesome. You couldn't have scripted it better. So I think, to me, having 3, if you ask me which is better, 1 world championship or 3, I say 3.
Mm-hmm. Richard, any opinion?
Yeah.
So yeah. He's done. He's done, man.
No, I just done this argument a million fucking times. Like at the end of the day, like, would I like to see some increased prize funds? Yeah, probably. Would it be nice to have a big event that was spread out over 2 weeks like the international? Yeah, probably. Have Valve talked about it and cock teased it? Yeah, they definitely have. Have they backpedaled on it? Yeah, that happened too. It is
over the major model.
No, I mean, look, I like having the idea of majors are great. Majors help feed the storyline over the course of a year. Yep. Should there be one event that somehow ties it all together? Yeah, if there was some, I don't know, like everyone who wins a major and then a qualifier to make up the extras, and then you fed into a massive tournament where you had the chance to win like real fucking money. Yeah, that'd be amazing. But I don't know if it's going to happen or not. My understanding is that Valve were interested in doing it at one point, and then I think they decided not to. I mean, they've proven you don't even really need to, because
you don't.
CSGO was almost as lucrative as Dota 2 in terms of money generated for Valve. This came out recently, and yet they're putting less in terms of crowdfunding. So again, that would be stupid from a business perspective, right? If two titles are making similar amounts of money and you're putting more into one than the other, well, if anything, like if you were real unscrupulous and profit focused, you would say, let's take some stuff out of Dota 2.
Yeah. Well, we've seen it. Like Thorin mentions tennis, but it's also in golf too. And golf has that huge American Express. The top prize is in that American Express. It's like ridiculous, like $6 million or something crazy like that. And it's way more than any of the majors, but nobody cares about that in the end. Everybody just cares about the 4 majors. So yeah, I don't think you need it either. Okay, well, that was a doozy of a show. I think we better wrap it up. Duncan, thanks for coming on. You haven't been on since the last when I left, took that long break.
As I've said, there's already people out there typing, how dare they say these things? How dare they say these things? What's brilliant is like the community actually prop up that fucking ridiculous opinion that people shouldn't be allowed to express opinions unless they've somehow paid some dues or elevated to a certain status, because they hate it, because the average person who watches this show probably does something they don't want to do for a living, and they hate having to go into fucking work or go into class or whatever the fuck they do and actually eat shit from a fucking boss, from an employer. Where it's creative types, we just get to go on Twitter and go, I don't like this person, I don't like this show, this person's shit, and it drives them fucking nuts, eats them up inside. Why can they say that and not me? Because we got different jobs, you dumb motherfucker. That's why. But it doesn't sink in, does it?
It's weird because
tear you down.
You would think it would inspire them that they could become content creators and then they would get better.
Nope.
Okay.
No inspiration. We just want them to not be able to do it.
Maybe Blizzard can regional ESPN, and then that will help us improve. So.
That'd be good, actually. If Blizzard can find a
way stop, man. Jesus
to basically, like just sort of lock away people who work 9 to 5 jobs from the creative types. I think we'd all be having a good time. Career locking, I believe it's called.
Okay. No, but Duncan, thanks for coming on, man. I love you, man. And got any shout outs you want to do?
Shout out to me for coming on the show again.
Yeah. Okay.
What about Alpha Draft?
And I like everyone on this version of Unfiltered and Alpha Draft. See ya.
Oh man, Steven runs our next Unfiltered, so I'm sure he's going to unleash on that one. Richard, shout out.
Watching, so don't worry.
Yeah. So shout outs obviously to my home slice Duncan for coming on the show. I know it was difficult. Shout out to Destiny. I like him so much. I was spending time with a young lady called Destiny in Vegas just a few days ago. I specifically sought her out based on the name.
What
it was
establishment was that? What establishment was this?
It doesn't matter, mate. It doesn't matter, mate.
The 2 E's. Okay.
Never you mind, son. Never you mind. You keep that to yourself. But anyway, yeah. So shout out to Destiny, because a lot of people seem to think there's been like a fucking coup d'etat, because like Duncan's obviously the first guest on the show that we've done a slasher and somehow conspired off the show. That's not what happened. Basically, Destiny hates esports. He also and he just wants to talk about.
Not interested.
And now that he's not got a Twitter, he needs a platform to talk about censorship issues. So we've created an entire show, which I'll also be on for the foreseeable. So yeah, we'll do that. So shout out to him. He's great even when he's not here. Shout out to you for hosting a show. On the one hand, people will say, "Oh, ChanManV, so brave, having Richard and Thorin on a show. Why would you do that to yourself?"
Or dumb.
In reality, this will be the highest viewed VOD of Unfiltered all year. So you milked us for the box office.
Milked you. Wow.
Milked us. Let's be real. Shout out to all the old boys club who are messaging people right now. I think it's fucking hilarious. I'm getting private messages right now talking about all these people who work at Twitch and all these people who work for other companies. Oh my God, listen to the things they are saying. Yeah, we're fucking saying them. We can say worse. Keep going.
Yeah. No, don't worry. As soon as I hear the next thing they've done, I'm coming with more shit, mate. I've got like one of those like bullet things that goes right around your back, the Rambo style, and I haven't even finished on fire. This was just the pop gun,
Somebody needs to make a meme of the Thorin as Rambo.
I'm telling you, if they want to keep going, you see, here's the thing: all of mine and Duncan skeletons, they're all out in the open because that's how we roll. We're not political animals. Their skeletons, not quite so much. So let's keep going. Let's see who ends up wrecked by the end of this one. So please keep messaging people in private. You know who you are, all boys club. Shout out to all the people that I was out with in Vegas. Destiny, especially the other Destiny. Shout out to all my fans, all the people who support my shit. A lot of people are asking what's going on with Trash Talk and First Blood and stuff. Obviously, there's something going on in the background right now that is kind of making me not do those shows. We'll have an announcement real soon, but long story short, there's going to be an amalgamation of all of those shows into one show, probably narcissistically called The Richard Lewis Show. Because why not, right? I've earned it.
Yeah.
So fuck you.
So you're gonna be juggling and shit too, and all that, stuff like that.
Yeah, what it is.
Variety
It's
show.
gonna be like top 5 dickheads in esports.
Oh my god. Okay.
What is the entire Gottfrag staff? It's gonna be like that, right? So
oh my god. Okay.
Edgy. So yeah, just shout out to everyone, man. I love what I do for a living. Not stopping anytime soon. Shout out to Breitbart, shout out to Milo, shout out to everyone. Much love.
Yeah, and I'll close things out. Thanks to all the viewers for tuning in. Richard, of course, for doing the shows with me each and every week. Love you, of course. And again, like he explained, we're gonna have more of like Unfiltered proper every other week. So we'll have esports one week, and we'll have like more of the non-esports Unfiltered with Steven. So be sure to check out whichever episode you want. I know this might like bisect some of the viewership, but I just wanted to make it more organized or make a little bit more sense in terms of like what topics we have and things like that. So yeah, hopefully we'll have some more esports guests. We'll see after this one. This one definitely sets an.
Oh, I'm sure you'll get a lot of people who want to come out when Duncan's not here. But Richard, you could be reasoned with, can't you? Not anymore, motherfuckers. That boat sailed. You had your chance.
It's all good. But VODs will be on youtube.com/ChanManV shortly after this. I'll get them up by tonight. And audios will be available on YouTube as usual. I mean, not YouTube, on iTunes and on my audio for feed burner. I'm just going to put them all in the Unfiltered one. So I'm not going to create a whole new one for Unfiltered Esports. So check them out there. If you're already subscribed to those, then cool. You'll get these. That's going to be it for Unfiltered. So for Thorin, Richard Lewis, and myself, ChanManV, we'll see you later. Peace.